Okay, hello everyone. This is Genesis from Girls of Royalty. We're going to get ready for tonight's teaching session. I'm very excited about tonight. I think that tonight will be a great night for you guys to learn as we, talk about God's love and all the amazing things. I do want to point out that if you're not a member, you should definitely be one by now. You should definitely be a member by now. We are just so excited about all things that God is doing and all the women that are just becoming a part of this great movement that we call Girls of Royalty. Our goal is to provide you with resources, teaching material, all sorts of stuff so that you can learn really how to grow in God. What's the point of you knowing God but not growing in Him? Your relationship will not become deeper in any way. So we want to learn more about God. And so I'm very excited again about all things that God's doing. And if you're not a member, go to girlsroyalty.com. I want you guys to go to the member login/sign up page and you can become a member very quickly. I'm also going to suggest to you too that if you're watching from your laptop or computer, make sure that you're viewing this from the highest resolution possible. I'm going to be doing an actual presentation on tonight's teaching, and so you want to make sure that you're watching from the highest resolution possible. So you can click on the settings toolbar. It's in your YouTube, like it's like almost like looks like a gear, and you can control the quality. So just make sure that you're on the highest quality that your phone offers, that your computer offers, because I want to make sure that you're going to be able to see the text. Okay, it's very important. That's going to be on this slide. Of course, we want to make sure too that, let's say you miss it. Let's say, you're watching 30 minutes and you have to go somewhere else. Don't worry, because we do record all of our teaching so that you can always watch it for later use, just in case you miss something, just in case you have to go back and look at something else. Okay. So tonight's teaching, we are going to ask that if you want to, you can tweet us your questions from the night. You can tweet us your questions or your any notes that you have from tonight's teaching. You can send that to us to @Girls of Royalty. So if you have any questions, just tweet us. Again, that's @Girls of Royalty. Okay. So we're going to get started in tonight's teaching. Tonight's topic is called an unnatural love. I'm so excited about this. It's called an unnatural love. And so if you are not familiar with our theme this month, it is what's love got to do with it. And LaShawn, she was, oh my God, she carried it last week so well as she was talking about Abraham and Isaac, and then she brought it to Jesus and just talking about this amazing transformative love. Okay. And then I was with you guys back in week 1. We talked about a crazy love. So tonight, after we talked about, the beginning of love, after we went into Abraham and Isaac, you know what? Tonight we're talking about an unnatural love. And we're basing tonight's teaching off of the study sheet that all of our members receive at the beginning of each month. At the beginning of each month, we send out an amazing, great one-page study sheet to bring you into the whole theme for each month as we break it down. And this week, we're looking at God and Jesus, the idea of love and the sacrifice that God made by bringing His only begotten Son, which of course we know is Jesus. And so we're going to be looking at God and Jesus, and we're also going to be looking at a man that we love, and his name is Nicodemus. And so let's first look at something that Jesus tells Nicodemus. Okay, and so here we have Nicodemus and Jesus, and this passage that we're looking at. If you want to turn to your Bibles, we want to make sure too, that you're prepared and to go into the Word. And so I want you guys to get ready. You can look at John 3:16-18. Again, that's John 3:16-18. Again, that's John 3:16-18. Okay, and this is just a quote that comes out of the whole passage, and it says, "This is how much God loved the world. He gave His Son, his one and only Son." Okay, and of course He's talking to Nicodemus. Nicodemus he's kind of confused, and so we're going to kind of set the scene. Okay, we're going to kind of set the scene here. We want to first figure out, what's going on? What in the world is going on? Okay, we want to know why does Nicodemus have questions? He has questions about how this all works. He's obviously a little bit confused, about what's going on. Okay, and again, we're looking at John 3:16-18. Okay, so in John 3. Nicodemus, he is a rabbi, okay? He is a man that has, for his whole entire life, followed the laws of Moses. He's followed the Torah. He's grown up figuring things out the way that Jesus is not teaching it. So he's definitely confused. He's like, look, I'm a man of the Jewish tradition. I've grown up teaching others as well. He's a rabbi, so he's a teacher. So he's teaching others, basically, about the laws of Moses. He's a Pharisee, of course, as we know, and Pharisees, their job was to dictate and enforce the laws of that time of the Jewish tradition. And the Jewish tradition did things according to the Mosaic law. Basically, they did things according to the way of Moses, to the laws that were presented through Moses. And Moses's laws, they were great. They had the laws, of course, that, do not kill, do not steal, do not commit adultery, all those laws, that we have grown up. I'm sure maybe some of you have known, even in the church, may have been taught them, but they were missing some really key components. See, the idea of the law was great. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. However, people, the way that they perceive the law became misconstrued. Instead of them looking at it from a grace standpoint or looking at it from a things to keep us from death, it became where it was like legalistic. It became where it was do this, can't do that. It was almost like someone almost hitting you with a ruler because there was no love in it. There was no love factor. See, the rules are fine now, even to this day. Don't murder, don't kill, don't steal. Those are great ones. There's nothing wrong with the laws. But the problem was, how were the laws being carried out? And after a while, people just needed to see exactly really what this true love was. They really needed a true representation. And God, he decided that, what? I'm going to actually show them. I'm not just going to talk. I'm actually going to show them their love. And the crazy thing is, it's not even like it's not even like God had never showed his love. I mean, throughout the whole Old Testament, how many times did God step in and save someone? How many times did healing take place? How many times was God doing these amazing things? It wasn't like God wasn't showing his love. You can clearly look through the prophets, through the Old Testament, as we see God's love being carried out so many times. More times than we probably would even help others. All the times the Israelites made mistakes, and God, he would keep on showing them love. All the things that they did that were wrong. But God kept on showing them love. All the times when we would see sick people or people that were without, and God provided for them with the woman and with the oil. Look at that in the Old Testament. We look at the 2 Kings. How many times was God really showing up through his prophets? So many times. But yet that wasn't enough. And so here we come to Nicodemus. And again, Nicodemus, he has questions. Look, what are you talking about with this whole being born again? What are you talking about this whole love? I don't understand. And so when we look at John 3, you know what? Nicodemus, though, he knew something. He may not have known everything, but he knew Jesus. He wasn't the lunatic that everyone called him. There was something up about Jesus, but what was it? He couldn't put his finger on it. And so, of course, if you ever have questions, you need to ask, right? So even if you're in school, if you have questions, you need to ask the teacher. Well, who was the teacher here? It was Jesus. It wasn't Nicodemus. See, Nicodemus, his job was to enforce the laws, but this time he actually had questions to give to the teacher, and the teacher was Jesus. And so Jesus, he's saying, you know what? Look, I got to break it down to you, right? And so here is Nicodemus. Nicodemus, he first starts off the conversation. And so if we're looking at John 3, this is what Jesus is saying. This is what Nicodemus is saying. So Nicodemus is like, look, you know what? I know that you are straight from God. He knew it. He knew it. And so Nicodemus, he wasn't blind. He knew something was up. And so here's what Jesus says. He said, look, you're absolutely right. Take it from me. Unless a person is born from above, it is not possible to see what I'm pointing to, God's kingdom. Now, this is John 3:3, and I'm reading from the Message version. I'm reading from this version just to provide a much clearer view for those of you who maybe need a more clear understanding of the Word of God. Now here comes Nicodemus in verse 4. He's like, look, okay, what are you talking about? What are you talking about when you're saying, wait, born again, born from above? What are you talking about? Born? Wait, what? He was like, look, we've already been born. Nicodemus is like, look, I've already been born once. Wait, are you saying I have to be born twice? But again, see, elation in the Mosaic law was natural application. And in the New Testament, God was about to rock their world by bringing in spiritual laws that did not make natural sense, did not make any natural sense. For instance, in the Old Testament, people would give items as sacrifice for the atonement of their sins. But even then, that was not enough, because you can't kill enough animals to cover your sins, because these were animals. These were not perfect beings. Of course, they did ask that the animals were unblemished, that they had no markings on them that would make them unclean. But still, an animal was still not enough to atone for our wrongdoings. There had to be something else. And so there had to be a spiritual element. And so again, these things are not making sense, because you're saying, wait, what? What are you saying? I mean, we've been killing animals our whole lives. You know, we've been doing this, we've been doing that our whole lives. What are you saying? Why are you flipping the script? But see, here's what Jesus was saying. He's like, look, you're not listening. Let me say it again. This is verse 5 and 6. Unless a person submits to this original creation. Wow, now this is really important. The wind hovering over the water creation. Wow, like listen, guys, I'm telling you, you got to get this. This is John 3, 5 through 6. Again, we're looking at the Message version. So if you're on your phone, if you're in the Bible app, switch to the Message, because the way this breaks it down is so beautiful. Okay, it says you're not listening. Now, see, look at the picture that's right in front of you of Nicodemus and Jesus. Right, obviously we can tell Jesus is because there's a light behind his head. Right, it's like this little hovering right here. But just look at them talking, and as I'm reading, just look at the image. So this is what it's saying. He's saying, this is Jesus. You're not listening. Let me say it again. Unless a person submits to this original creation, the wind hovering over the water creation, the invisible moving the visible, a baptism into a new life, it's not possible to enter God's kingdom. When you look at a baby, it's just that, a body. You can look at and touch. But the person who takes shape within is formed by something you cannot see and touch, the spirit, and they become a living spirit. So don't be surprised when I tell you that you have to be born from above, out of this world, so to speak. You know well enough how the wind blows this way and that. You can hear it rustling through the trees, but you have no idea where it comes from or where it's headed next. That is the way it is with everyone born from above, by the wind of God, the Spirit of God. Nicodemus looks back and he says, what do you mean by this? How does this happen? Jesus says, you're a respected teacher of Israel. You know the basics. Listen carefully. I'm speaking sober truth to you. I speak only of what I know by experience. I give witness only to what I have seen with my own eyes. There is nothing secondhand here, no hearsay. Yet instead of facing the evidence and accepting it, you procrastinate with questions. If I tell you things that are plain as the hand before your face and you don't believe me, what use is there in telling you of things you cannot see, the things of God? Wow. Wow. See, here's what we're seeing here. Here's Nicodemus in this picture here looking at Jesus, trying to get a natural understanding. But here's the issue. God was trying to bring in something spiritual, something that would transform their natural way of thinking. And guess what that one component is? It's love. See, love is transformative. Love goes past a natural law, because many times our love does not make sense to other people. Think about all the times when people have done you wrong, and yet you've shown them the love of God. You've shown them that, you know what, I'm not going to give in to the way that you treat me. I wonder how they are thinking. Sometimes, we think about our haters and people that do us wrong, and, we really don't care of what they think. And sometimes they don't even care of how we treat them. But it's not about that. It's the idea that love is transformative, and it has the power to change things that we cannot change ourselves, because it is actually a spiritual action. It's something that God has given us. And the thing about love is, as you will learn throughout the teaching, is that love is not an emotion, but it is an action. So let's go forward. What was the problem and who was the solution? Of course, what was the problem? Well, let's look back. We're actually going to go forward. We're going to look at we're going to skip to John's the same chapter. We're going to look down, and I've highlighted some key components that we're going to look at. So let's look at John 3, 16 through 18. Again, this is the Message version. I've bolded and underlined some parts because it's going to help us break down the paragraph, okay, this passage. It's very important that as we read the Word of God, that we don't just read, okay? Reading, is great, but there's always a way of how to read. And when you read the Word of God, we're looking for ways to apply the Word. What's the point of us reading the Word of God if we don't know how to apply it? I mean, what's the point? I mean, how much can we read the Word if we don't figure out how to apply it to our everyday life? So what we're going to do is we're going to break down this passage and figure out just how we can apply this to our everyday life. So let's read. This is how much God loved the world. He gave His Son, His one and only Son. And this is why. So that no one need be destroyed by believing in Him. Anyone can have a whole and lasting life. God didn't go to all the trouble of sending His Son merely to point an accusing finger, telling the world how bad it was. No, it came to help and to put the world right again. Anyone who trusts in Him is acquitted. Anyone who refuses to trust him has long since been under the death sentence, been under, wow, without knowing it. And why? Because of that person's failure to believe in the one of a kind Son of God when introduced to him. Okay, so I want you to close your eyes. Okay, we're going to do a little activity. I want you to close your eyes really, really quickly. Close your eyes. And this is what I want you to picture as you're closing your eyes. Hopefully you can hear me very well. As you close your eyes, I want you to think about Jesus. I want you to think about Jesus on the cross, whichever way you picture him. I want you to think about him on the cross, nailed. His hands were nailed. His feet were nailed. He had a crown of thorns around his head, and he was bleeding down the side of his head. Bleeding. And what I want you to think about as you close your eyes is I want you to picture, as he is on the cross, picture him thinking about you. And as he's thinking about you, I want you to picture your life where it was full of chaos, where you just didn't feel that there was any purpose in your life, and you didn't feel that you had anything to contribute. And matter of fact, you were probably down the wrong road. Maybe you were doing things that you know you shouldn't have been doing. Maybe you were trying to fit in with the crowd. And I want you to just picture Jesus on the cross while he's dying, while there's pain, and he's feeling such an excruciating pain, and yet while you're doing all the things that you thought were cool, while you were doing all the things that you thought were, things that you should have been doing, Jesus had you on his mind. He had you on his mind. And he wasn't thinking, oh, how wrong is this woman? How wrong is this guy? They're doing all these things that I don't even approve of. But yet, as you're doing all these things that are wrong, as you're doing all these things that God wouldn't be pleased with, instead of him frowning, he is smiling. He's smiling. He's thinking about you. But do you know why he's thinking about you? Because even while you were in that mess, even while you were in those pits of depression and pits of just not feeling enough, feelings of trying to be pleased through other means, he saw you for who he made you. Not while you were doing those crazy things. So now I want you to open your eyes, right? And look at the person you are now. Look at the person that you may not have it all together. You may feel like you actually don't have it together. You may feel like right now it's really not great. It's really not good. But see, Jesus, he didn't come for the people who had it together. No, he came for who you are. He came for who you were. He came for people that were lost. And to be honest, all of us have been lost at one point in time. We've been lost. Maybe we've been chasing things that we should not have been chasing. Maybe we've been, with guys or with women that we thought, would try to satisfy us. Or maybe we were leaving or showing the opposite of love to our spouses by betraying our spouses and doing things that we should not have been doing. Whatever it may have been, whatever we may be doing even now that we feel like isn't pleasing to God, we have to realize that his love is there for that reason. His love is there so that we can begin to see of exactly who we are in him. Where is our worth, our identity, how it's based in him alone. And so as we see here in John 3:16-18, we see why he really came. Again, let's go back to the previous slide. We see what was the problem and who was the solution. The problem was that, look, he didn't want us to be destroyed. He wanted us to have a whole and lasting life, right? It says here that he came to put the world right again, right? Wow. I mean, he came with a list of reasons. It wasn't like he just popped up and said, hey, guys, what's going on? No, he saw the hurt. He saw the pain. He saw when, maybe you were domestically abused. Maybe it was where you were struggling to make ends meet. And so you did things maybe that you were not pleased of just to make the money. Maybe it was where, you were the person that was always, loud and always doing things that were just, obnoxious and just always causing havoc and chaos. For me, it was where I was looking for my self-worth in men. And, for me, I was trying to find love literally in all of the wrong places. And because I never really knew my own identity. And so therefore, I try to do things so that people will be pleased in who I was based upon their own standards of humanity and of really what a woman should be. Not based upon my own, but based upon theirs. So therefore, I was living according to the world's standards. I was actually dead. I was dead. I was dead. I was walking full of hatred, full of spite, full of jealousy. I didn't know who I wanted to be. I just knew that I wanted to fit in. But God came for people like me, came for people like you. He came for people like your neighbors, your next door neighbors, your neighbors down the street, the neighbors 2 apartments down. He came for your coworkers. He came for the people that you actually hate, that we may hate, that we may have haters. He came for the haters too. He came for everybody. He came for the person that just drives you crazy. He came for the person that you actually love and that's actually maybe your best friend. He came for your husband. He came for your wife. He came for those people that realize that, you know what, I'm tired of walking like a dead person within. I'm tired of not knowing my purpose. I'm tired of not having a reason to live. I'm tired. I am just tired. I'm tired of being accused for things that, you know what, people, maybe someone molested you, maybe someone did you wrong, maybe someone twisted your mind so much that, you know what, you didn't even really know how to get out of a pit. Have you ever put yourself in a pit so deep that you didn't even know how to get out? But see, God, he offers a way out, and that's his love. See, he had to show it. He had to prove it to us. Because see, sometimes we just don't believe it because see, people may have maybe told us that they loved us so many times, but maybe their actions didn't align with their words. Because remember, love is an action. So if you say it, you got to show it. But maybe we're so used to people that they say it, but they don't show it. So after a while, we kind of don't believe it when someone tells us that they actually love us. So you know what? Jesus, he had to show up. He said, you know what? No, instead of you just hearing people tell you, I'm going to actually show you. And he did it over 2,000 years ago. And so let's look at some scriptures just as a reference point, okay? Because again, as we're looking at this, we see whole and lasting life, accusing finger, telling the world how bad it was, and death sentence. These are things that, you look, God gave us what? A whole and lasting life. Jesus did. That he came through the earth. He died on the cross so that we can have a whole and lasting life, right? Because, you know what? People were always showing us, giving us that accusing finger, you know, telling us that you're this, you're just that, you're doing this, you're just that. And see, many times we think that because Jesus came to save us, that we think that's what he's going to do, but that's not why he came. No, because you know what else? The death sentence. See, we've been under this death. We've been living like we're dead because see, there's no life. Let's look at the reason why and some supporting scriptures. Okay, so you can write these down because I really think it's very important, you know, that you're looking at these. So let's look at, you can write down John 10 and 10, Matthew 18, verses 10 through 14, Romans 6 and 23. And then if you want to look at why and how we're free from accusation and guilt when we come to Jesus Christ, it's Romans 8 and 1. Okay, Romans 8 and 1. So, you know, you could just write those down and give you about a minute, or you could just write those down on your notepad. So again, you can just write those down and add those to your notes. Again, we're looking at, these are reference scriptures because again, I want you guys to have supporting scripture. As we're learning about this love of God, it's just so important that we realize that, you know, Jesus, he had a purpose. He had a plan. There's a reason why he does what he does. And that's what makes him so amazing. He's not like people who just talk about it. No, Jesus, I'm telling you, Jesus and God, they are really about it. Look at these pictures. We have a cross. We have Jesus on the cross. We have here a couple. We have here two people talking to one another, two women, right? Of course, we're girls royalty, so we had to show the ladies, you know. But one of the things that I want you to see is that in our everyday talk, in our everyday forms of love, everything should point back to the cross, okay? Because the cross is where the love comes from. Real love. Real, honest love. See, this is the perfect representation of love. It's sacrifice. It's trust. It's being willing to lay down what we think for the greater good, right? So when we look at our friendships with our girlfriends, maybe our friendships with our mothers, with our coworkers, maybe it's romantic friendships, right? Maybe you're a male watching this and it's trying to figure out, maybe with your girlfriend or your wife, maybe you're a wife and you're looking with your husband or your boyfriend. The love that we talk about as we share with one another, it should always be based in God's love and this sacrifice. And see, God, he loved us so much that he sent his only son, right? That's what John 3:16 says. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Life. That's why he came, so that we can actually live and not be in this rut where we're never feeling like we really have anything to live for. No. So you have a reason to live when you have a reason to love. I'm going to say that again. You have a reason to live when you have a reason to love. And the reason to love is that God loved us. See, God loved us so that we can love other people, because we have to pass on Jesus to other people. See, when people see us loving ourselves, and that's why it's so important for you to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, then see, you're not accepting God's love in your life, because when you love yourself, you're loving the person that God made you to be. And you're not walking by the world's standards. And when we accept that within ourselves, we can actually radiate and show the love of God. Now let's move on. Love is an action. Okay, we're about halfway through. We still have some things we have to go through. Love is an action. Okay, now I'm going to give you these notes right here. You can write them down as we go through them, but I want you just to look at them really quickly. Okay, I'm going to give you about a minute. I want you to look at each one. Okay, just look about each one. Just think of each one. Okay, so these are the notes that we see. Love is not an emotion. Love is sacrifice. And everything else is emotion. Love is a sign of surrender to the good within. And the greatest love is that shown by God through Jesus. Okay. So love is not an emotion. See, the issue with a lot of people, well, not with a lot of people, but a lot of people's ideas of love is that we think it's love, but it doesn't have what we would consider the attributes or the characteristics of love. See, love has certain characteristics that make it actually love. It's like, for instance, there are things that make you a human and not a dog, right? There are things that make you a living human and not a piece of bread. There are characteristics that you have that make you a mammal and not an amphibian, or make you a mammal and not, a plant. There are certain characteristics, right? Whether it's the things that are within, usually the reasons that make who you are is by what is within, okay? And so when you look at someone's actions, or saying, we'll put it like this, when you look at someone's words, the words must contain something, and that is an action. It has to go along with it. Otherwise, it's not what it is, okay? Because it can look great on the outside, but even a gift can be empty within, okay? It can look great on the outside, but it can still be empty, right? Someone can give you a box of air, I'm just saying, and that's really what we receive a lot. We receive what we feel is love when really it's just boxes filled with air. It's nothing. It looks nice on the outside, because see, love is not an emotion. It's not just a feeling, because the emotions go and come. They come and go, right? So you could be loving someone now, then you love them. You're doing this now, then you're doing this now. So basically, what you're saying is that if you really say that you love someone, it's not supposed to go away, because if it goes away, then it's just an emotion. No, see, love is an action. Okay. See, love is an action. When you put actions behind it, it creates what we would consider a commitment, right? So love is a sacrifice, and everything else is an emotion. Because see, if you don't sacrifice, then to me, it means that they're just words. And then also, love is a sign of surrender to the good within. See, many times we can no longer love people based upon our idea, but we got to start loving people based upon the good within them. Think about a mother with a child. A child can make a lot of mistakes, right? But the mother loves that child because she knows the good within them. Okay, when you have certain friends and they just do wrong, right? Some things are definitely, some things they do you're really really wrong, and you may have to distance yourself, right? But you can still love them from afar, because see, you see the love of God within them. And well, you may not see, they may be completely evil, and you'd be like, oh my goodness, but you can still love them through the love of God. So in other words, you may not have them hang out by your house anymore, but you can still pray for them, right? Look, we're supposed to pray for our enemies. You can still, making sure that, everything's good with them. Maybe checking in every once, while, not to stir up anything. And if they stir something up, you already know, make an exit. But again, it's about showing love of God in all instances. And so you have to show that by surrendering to the good within. If you're with your husband and you're quarreling, maybe with your wife, if you're a male and you're quarreling, going back and forth, you have to see the God within them. And that's what you love. You love the God within them. You see, there's a lot of people who will not, even, when I'm thinking about ministry and service, and I say this all the time, when you're doing the work of God, sometimes you're not going to get a pat on the back, right? My mother and my father, they say that all the time. You're not going to get a pat on the back. But see, it's about you serving the good within people, because see, you want to see the God within them greet the God within you, right? And see, God, he lives in every single one of us. And so it's important that we begin to show that love to everyone. We need to spread out the love of Jesus Christ. And again, how do we know what love is? Well, the greatest love is that shown by God through Jesus. See, Jesus was the vehicle. He was the vehicle of love. Okay, so God, he showed his love by sending, and again, his sending was the sacrifice. So he sent his love. So let's look at the spiritual application. Okay, so Jesus was the physical gift to show or place action behind the I love you. Okay, so instead of me just saying I love you, Jesus said no. Jesus is like, no. See, my father God is not just going to say I love you. He's going to send me as the way to actually show that I love you. Okay, and so how? But wait, hold on. Was that just it? No. It didn't just stop there. It says that his death showed us the sacrifice. By him dying on the cross, he really showed us what it means to really sacrifice. What it means. The greatest love is the love when a brother lays down his life, right, for his friends, right? No greater love, right? Because here's the thing. Many of us will say it, will do it, but until we lay something down, that's when you really know you love someone. When you lay down you for them. And it's not saying you're laying down the dreams, the goals, your aspirations, but you're laying down the body, the flesh, so that the truth can resurrect. And that's what we saw. See, his resurrection showed us the law of love, defeating death, defeating flesh, defeating the thing that many times keeps us back from really loving. See, his resurrection proved to us that love is always the overriding factor. Why do you think that when Jesus came, he said, look, the greatest greatest thing I want you to do is to love one another? Why? Was he talking about love that we, the kind of love that's in Hallmark cards? Was he talking about the kind of love that we joke about? That we say, "Oh, hey girl, I love you." Hey girl, no. This was a love where it's gonna hurt sometimes, because we're gonna have to lay down our flesh. The part of us that says, you know what, I really want to do this, but I'm gonna have to just really love. I'm gonna have to really put myself down, lay down what I want to do for the greater good of what this is. Right, of what this is. And so many times, if you ask a husband or wife, if you ask a couple, if you ask, really, really good friends that have been friends for years, there's always been sacrifices in those kind of relationships, because you had to get, it's all a give and take. It's all a give and take. But with God and Jesus, oh my God, it's give. They just overshadow us with their love each and every day, right? And so what we see here is that defeats death. And there's a death that many people walk through and in, because see, they don't understand. They're kind of like, well, you know what? Let's move to the next slide. You know what they're kind of like? They're kind of like The Walking Dead. Yeah, I think they're pretty much like The Walking Dead. See, The Walking Dead, if you see, there's a show on AMC that a lot of people with. I'm not really a zombie person. I'm sorry. I can't do zombies. I can't do it. I'm sorry. But because me, they're not real. They scare me. But with zombies though, they're like dead. They're like their bodies that have been they were like dead, raised corpses walking around or whatever. But that's really what a lot of us are, to be honest. We're walking dead. We're walking around living life, but we're pretty much what is it called? Oh yeah, spiritual zombies. Let's look at point 1. Many of us are walking spiritual zombies because we block off the love of God, yet accept the idea of love from others. Yeah, it's pretty much it. See, what we do is people tell us that they're going to show us love. They do things, but it's not love. It's like selfish ways of living, and we let them do that. And we think it's love, but you know what love can turn into if it's really not love? Abuse. Yeah. Because see, we think it's love, but see, after a while, love that is not really love, it's actually just selfish desires. Yeah, it transforms into abuse. And the thing is, we can self-abuse ourselves by allowing ourselves to stay in positions where we know it's not love. But see, we would rather take that than actually dealing with the true issues. See, we walk according to our emotion instead of we walk according to emotion instead of motion. So we walk according to how we feel now, and then how we feel tomorrow, and then how we feel the next day. Walking in actual action. See, because again, love is an action. Love is an action. So if we're not in motion, then we're in emotion. Okay? So if you want to think about it, emotion is the motion of your feelings. Okay, it's like you just wavering back and forth like a ship tossed in the sea, right? But then you have the action of love, which is the displayment of love that is seen through God. It has to be based in God. If it's not based in God, it's not love, okay? If the person's love does not mirror God, then it's not love. I'm not saying that they're going to die on the cross for you, but I will say this. If they're not sacrificing for you, if they're not showing commitment to you and love, if they're not forgiving, then that's not love. If they're slandering you down, then that's not love. And we can look at our friendships, we can look at our love life, we can look at our relationships with our coworkers and things like that. You will know we're loved because it will be a mirror of God. It will be God, literally. It will be his characteristics moving around in your life. That is the idea of love. And if it's not like that, then you need to throw it out. Let's look at Romans 8 and 13. Hopefully you guys are getting some things from there. Hopefully. Again, if you have any questions or any comments, you can always tweet us. Again, that is at Girls of Royalty. You can tweet us and talk to us. Okay, here we go. I'm going to read Romans 8. Actually, I'm going to do the Message verse. So I'm going to read Romans 8, 12 through 14. Actually, let me do the 13 so that we can get it. Okay. Here's Romans 8 and 13. For if ye live after the flesh, ye shall die. Okay. But if ye live through the Spirit, but if ye through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. Okay. Let's read 14 too. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons or daughters. I'm adding daughters of God. Okay. Wow. You know what? Now I'm going to read this in Message, guys, for you. Okay. I'm going to read Message. Here's 12 through 14. So don't you see that we don't owe this old do-it-yourself life one red cent? Wow. There's nothing in it for us. Nothing at all. The best thing to do is to give it a decent burial and get on with your new life. God's Spirit beckons. There are things to do and places to go. Hold on. What does it say? Whoa. Guys, you know what? I think, oh, wow. Guys, we definitely have to add this to our thing to read, because I'm telling you guys, this is going to help you tonight. This is definitely going to help you. Let's look at, again, Romans 8. Really, you should write down all of Romans 8. I think you should read over all of Romans 8. Okay, yeah, we're going to definitely add that to our thing, Romans 8. Okay, so let's read Romans 8. I'm going to read again, Romans 8, 12 through 14, okay? This is talking about, and actually the funny thing is that we read this in week 1, I believe. Yeah, we definitely read this in week 1. So the crazy thing is this, right? It says that you don't owe this old life. See, that's the dead life. See, the old you is dead. The old you needs to be dead. Because if it's not dead, you will be a walking zombie, walking around, okay? Letting people use you, letting people do all the things to you, letting people give you their idea of love, which is really not love. Again, it's not love, it's emotion. They're just giving you emotions. They're giving you how they feel now, and they don't like you today, but then they like you tomorrow. Then they want to be your best friend tomorrow. You know, your coworker, they liked you last week, now they hate you. And then tomorrow they're going to be like, hey, besties. No. So we have to figure out exactly what this love is, and it's on God's terms. And here's what it's saying. It says, look, this old you, that old life, that walking dead life, look, let that thing die. Because you know what? God's spirit is beckoning. Guess what it's saying? There are things for you to do and places for you to go. There are things, and see, that's what you have to say when you feel that old life coming on you, those old friends calling you, those old guy friends, or maybe if you're a guy, those old women friends calling you. When you hear, maybe actions that you used to do. See, that's not love calling. That's not love. Those are emotions calling, saying, hey, come back. Hey, come back. I want you to come back and do the things that you used to. But you know what? Guess what? No, I have things to do and places to go. What does it say here? Again, this is what it says in the Message version. It says that there are things to do and places to go. And so when you feel those things coming on, you have to say to yourself, you know what? There are places for me to, there are places, look, there are things for me to do. There are places for me to go. There are things for me to do. There are places for me to go. I am going somewhere. So you have to say to you, a zombie walks in repetitive places because it's so used to the past. Well, I can feel God. I'm telling you. See, God's speaking to me. Because see, this is what's happening for a lot of us. See, a lot of us are walking in dead situations because we are so used to walking the same way. Wow. But see, this is what God can feel him telling me to tell you. See, the thing about it is that if we want to be free, we have to walk in the love of God. And I'm not just talking about the love that we show to one another, but the love of ours, just to love on you. See, so many times we have not loved ourselves enough. We are still enslaved to our old habits because our old habits have been formed by our former selves, by the person that we used to be. And so because of that, we've been walking so long on who we used to be that when the past does call, it's almost like a familiar taste. But God is saying there are places that you got to go. There are people that you got to reach. There are places that God is calling you to that is greater than where you have been. You can no longer be like the walking dead. You can no longer walk in the same places, going the same way, making the same circles when God's called you out of that. He's called you out of that. He's called you to live and not die, right? I am to live. Look, to live and not die. I'm to proclaim the word of the Lord. I am to live and not die. And so when you live, you actually love because God's love gives you life. If I want life, I have to love. If I want death, I will not love. But if you want life, if you really want life, you have to accept God's love. And I'm telling you, as we go through the rest of this year, and even as you go into the next year, well, I don't care how many years after that, you have to realize, you have to figure out and make a stance. Look, either I'm going to live by God's love, or I'm going to live like a zombie. I'm going to be a walking dead person, walking and rejecting God's love. But see, if I allow God's love to enter in my life, I am now allowing life to enter into me. And so here's the idea. Do you want to grow or do you want to die? Do you want to stay stagnant? Or do you want to be complacent? Or do you actually want to go forward in God? So let's go to the next portion. And this is really what's showing me. John 3:19-21 says this. See, now a minute, y'all. Now a minute. Because see, this is it. It says that this is the crisis that we're in. God light streamed into the world, but men and women, wait, hold on. So God's light, it came into it streamed into the world. But here's what happened. But men and women everywhere ran for the darkness. This is why I bolded it. Because it says it ran for that means that when they saw the light coming, no, they went to the dark. They didn't go to the light. It says that they ran for the darkness. Then it says that they went for the darkness because why did they go to the darkness? Because they were not really interested in pleasing God. Wow. But everyone who makes practice of doing evil, they're addicted to denial and illusion. Wow. It says it hates God light and won't come near it because why? They are fearing a painful exposure. But anyone working and living in truth and reality welcomes God light. So the work can be seen for the God work that it is. Okay. So again, it says here, but anyone working and living in truth and reality welcomes God light. So the work can be seen for the God work that it is. See, so here's the thing that we see. Okay, the next slide. If love is life, then death is the absence of love. So here's the points that I want you to get. If we make it a point that God is love, then walking away from God means walking away from true love. Wow. People who chase sin, this is the next point. People who chase sin are chasing a life filled with false ideas of love, right? We touched on that. Then next, scared for the layers of life to show their insecurities and the things they have ran away from, okay? So again, that's the thing that we are looking at, okay? The thing that we're looking at is that if we're scared for the reason why we don't want love to come, If we don't want love to come, it's because we're scared for the layers of life to show, because see, it shows the insecurities. And so people, when they run away from love, from God's love, it's because, again, they're scared, because see, the darkness, it goes away. Because see, if love is light, then that means that the love will shed, and it will show all those things that were hidden in the dark, right? Because we pile things in the dark. We pile insecurities, we pile things that we've been battling with. We don't want people to see them, so we put them in the dark. But see, love, it uncovers that. It may not show it to the people around us, but it shows God. And sometimes we get scared because, oh my God, I'm going to actually have to deal with it. But see, if you want to actually live, you're going to have to deal with some things, because see, God wants you to actually figure out why those things were happening so that you can move on. So you can't move on if you don't deal with it. Well, so many times we push things underneath the bed. We push things all into the closet, and we think that we can live life with shoved closets of fear and doubt. But no, God's like, no. See, you got to be able to get over those things. You can't hide them. You have to be able to deal with them. And see, that's a good thing. But see, we don't want to do that. We want to kind of just like cheat around, or we kind of want to just like cut corners. I don't want to deal with that. We just go around that. But no, God's like, look, if you're actually going to have victory, you're going to have to learn how to deal with the things you don't want to deal with, because that's the only way you can defeat it. You have to deal with it. You have to do, in order to defeat, you actually have to deal with it. Okay. So here's the additional points as we come to a close. Love is a revealer, because it forces you to show the actual part of you that God knows. And see, that's the thing. Love sheds the light. Okay, the next point is that God's love is light, which means all dark areas will be seen. And see, people don't like that. They don't want the light. They don't want the love to come, because then it will show the light. Okay, and the last part is this. The darkness prohibits you from dreaming and chasing after your true purpose and identity. See, when you decide to stay in the dark, remember, as we talking about here, The Walking Dead. See, The Walking Dead operate in darkness, because see, there's no love. And when there's no love, there's no light. And so when you're in the darkness, you can't really see what God's calling you to. But just like we said, though, in Romans 8:12-14, God beckons. His spirit beckons. And what is he saying to us? There are things to do and places to go. But if we can't hear God's spirit, if there is no love, so that means that we need to take away the darkness. But again, when you stay in the darkness, you are actually allowing your dreams and your goals to never come forth. And so therefore, you're actually never going to be able to reach your true purpose and your identity. Now, here are 3 scriptures. I want to, well, actually, no, not 3 scriptures, but 3 challenges I want you to do. Now, here's the first one. Here's a reflection question. How can I share the story of love? We went through the story of love. We read about how when Jesus was talking to Nicodemus, he talked about why he actually came. The real love question. Why did he come? Remember how we went through this? What was the problem and who was the solution? And we learned that in John 3:16-18. There were issues in the world, and there was a solution, though, right? Jesus was the solution. But we have to be able to share that. We have to tell people about the solution. We have to tell people about what is going on, because a lot of people are what? They're walking dead. They're walking through the world in utter darkness. So we have to be able to share the story of love to other people, so that people can realize that there is a solution to their problems, to all the issues that maybe they've been trying to stuff in their closets. There is a solution, and his name is Jesus. Okay, next. How can I show love instead of emotion? So many times, we decide that we don't actually want to put forth the action. So what we do is we just put forth the emotion. And the emotion wavers, though. So therefore, what happens is there's no commitment, there's no covenant. What we do instead is we just cover it up with words. And that means that we can say something 1 minute, but then we switch the other minute because it's just emotion. So it's not really love. But what can you do to challenge yourself that, I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to actually show someone that I actually love them by actually putting forth putting forth action to the actual idea of a love. Remember, love is an action. It's not an emotion. It's an action. So how can you show love instead of emotion? In other words, how can you show action instead of emotion? How can you actually show action? And then last, here's a confession. This is something that we really want to focus on, because remember, when we don't allow love to come into our hearts, we're actually letting the darkness stay. We don't want to solve our problems. We don't actually want to deal with the things that are going on. But see, God, he wants us to help. He wants actually to help us. He wants to help us in our everyday challenges. He wants to help us loving that person that we feel is just unlovable. He wants us to help us face the challenges of life. So you can't get victory if you don't walk in love. And so this is our confession. God, shed the light, which is your love, within my heart. That's it. God, shed the light, which is your love, within my heart. God, shed the light, which is your love, within my heart. Because when he sheds the light in our heart, it reveals those things that maybe we don't want to deal with. And those are things that we actually have to deal with. Because see, in the world, they decide that we should cover it up. And when you cover it up, you can look cute, you know, but then when you get home by yourself, you take off the makeup, you take off all the cool stuff, you get out the car, you do get out, you know, you lay down in your home. That's the real you. When you lay your head on that pillow, that's the real you. That's the person that you really need to deal with. That's the person that gets made up. You know, it's the person that when you lay down and you're by yourself, or maybe with you when you know, maybe, you know, even if you're with your spouse, but when you're it's just you. That's the point. It's just you. That's the person that you really have to deal with. And so that's the person that God's really trying to help. He's not trying to help that made up person that you put on that people see. No, he's trying to help the real person, because see, that's the person that really has to overcome the battles. The enemy doesn't send battles to the person that's made up. He sends battles to that real you, because see, that's the person that's covering up the issues, covering up all the things that we don't want to figure out. But no, if we put his love and if we put God's love in our life, then what will happen is we will actually begin to realize, what is your plan for me? What's your purpose? God, what are you really trying to help me deal with? See, because a lot of times we don't even know. There are issues that we may not even know that we have. People may know it, but we may not know it. And God's saying, look, there are some things that I know that you need to do. There are some things that I know that you need to deal with, that you need to clean out, that will actually help you get to that next level. So many times we think that we're ready for the next level, but God's like, no, not yet. We're like, wait, but God, why are you blocking my blessings? God, why is this not happening? Maybe it's because there's something maybe that you need to deal with within yourself. Maybe there's something that you need to work on. And the only way that you'll know that is if God reveals it to you. But how can you hear his voice when you're going to shut out his love? You have to make sure, God, look, shed your light, which is your love within my heart. Now, here's your challenge. Tonight's homework, I want you to read Hebrews 10. And I'm going to add a actual extra point to that too. I also want you to read Romans 8. Okay, so I want you to read Romans. Let's do this. Yeah, so do Romans 8. I'm going to actually put them in order though for you guys. Okay, if it doesn't look messed up. There you go. I want you to read Romans 8 and I want you to read Hebrews 10. Okay, those are the two chapters that we're going to look over, Romans 8 and Hebrews 10. Okay, again, Romans 8 and Hebrews 10. Okay, those are the chapters that I want us to read over, because we want to learn more and more about God's love. Okay, so that concludes tonight. Okay, again, as we talked about in Unnatural Love, if you have any questions, you can tweet us at Girls of Royalty. And of course, you can always contact us at our new email, which is, of course, info@girlsofroyalty.com. You can also contact us. There's actually, it's a whole bunch of places you can contact us at. But I would always suggest, though, you can tweet us. You can always tweet us. And then too, if you ever want to actually, get in contact us with, with us more, you can always reach me at Genesis@girlsofroyalty.com. Again, that's Genesis@girlsofroyalty.com. And I'm actually going to put that right here though for you guys. So if you ever want to reach us, talk to us, it's Genesis@girlsofroyalty.com. I'm going to make this smaller. Bam, 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 boom. Okay. And that way you can actually reach us. And if you have any questions too, you can always reach us too. And that will be, if you have any prayers, you can do prayers. You can do prayer@girlsofroyalty.com. Okay, and that'll reach us too. Okay, so those two prayers, you can do prayer@girlsofroyalty.com. If you want to reach me, well, just learn more about the Bible, then Genesis@girlsofroyalty.com. Okay, but we just want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for just tuning into to an unnatural love. Again, and if you have any questions, just tweet us at @girlsofroyalty. We would love to talk to you. Okay, have a blessed night. Feel free to rewind this teaching back just to get all your notes. Make sure you got it. But again, our challenge is what? How can I share the story of love? How can I show love instead of emotion? And remember our confession, God shed the light, which is your love within my heart. Okay, and then of course we're going to read Romans 8, Hebrews 10. Okay, have a blessed night. I love you guys. God bless.